Hello everyone. In this video I would like to discuss what are the different variables in C#. And the best way to proceed is actually using a tool that should be used now for all programmers, which is ChatGPT. You must be familiar with ChatGPT at this point. So if I type on ChatGPT, what are the variable types in C#, we get a clear answer. And I will say can be even a bit overwhelming. Okay, so as we can see on screen, we have integral types. A byte is an 8-bit unsigned integer. Then you have the sbyte, which means it's a signed integer. I will show you example of all this very soon. And in order to have clarity on all the different data type, we should actually have a clear example by using our IDE. Okay, otherwise we get overwhelmed with all these options, right? So my suggestion from now on is that you should code along with me by using ChatGPT to have clarity about all these options and how to program in C# is the best way to proceed. So right now I'm gonna open Visual Studio 2022. I'm going to create a new project. And I will call this console app, and I will call it variables types. Okay, so let's find a destination, new folder, example of variable types. I think this will do. And we can now go to next. I'll use net9 standard term support, and we should begin now. So we can actually ask ChatGPT how to declare and initialize variables in C#. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT will answer. Okay, as you can see on screen, we have plenty of examples, and so we will use this as example, how to initialize and declare variable. So for example, we can type variable name equal Giorgio. Okay, so that is declaration of a variable. We can also have variable. In this case, since Giorgio is within brackets, this Giorgio is a string. But then we can have actually a different variable age equals 50. And in this case, the compiler infer that age is an integer, a number. Okay, so clever, isn't it? Then we have other options. Let's see what are other options that we have available. We can actually have a float variable. In this case, we can call it float. These are called primitive types. Float, for example, pi is equal 3.14, and we say f to make clear that is a float variable. Then always we need to remember to put the semicolon. Then we can have other variables, for example, char. Char is to store a single character. For example, $. And so in memory will not use a lot of space because it's just meant to use a single character. Okay, so this is more convenient. And then we can have, for example, Boolean. And we can say is mic available, for example. And this can be either true or false. In this case, I say false. This is a dichotomic. And then we have, these are primitive, so integer, age equal 50. Now age as int, that is more specific, is indeed an integer now. Okay, so age is integer. And then float is a decimal number. Then we have char, $, and Boolean. These are called primitive types. Then we can have other variable types. We can have reference types. In this case, you can write, for example, a string variable, and we can have a message, maybe. We call this variable string message. And this can be, for example, hello Giorgio. Okay, so this is a message. It's a string. Now we can have, for example, an array as another type, data type. Array can be, for example, an integer. We can have an array of numbers. So we put it in curly brackets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is indeed an array, isn't it? And then let's see what are other data types that we can have. I think we should stop here. We have some example. Of course, we can go back to ChatGPT and find out that, for example, we can ask ChatGPT, do an example of a 8-bit signed integer variable. So let's do it together. So we can ask ChatGPT, write an example of let's call it, let's see which one we want to use. Let's say 8-bit signed integer variable, okay, for example. Okay, so let's see what the software. Okay, so in this case it's giving us a lot of examples. So 8-bit signed integer data type is represented by the sbyte keyword and goes from -128 to +127. And as an example, we can do a sign declaration initialization of 8-bit signed integer, for example, temperature, -45. Okay. This is an amazing option. So, okay, we can do example. Let's copy all of these examples. Okay. We go to our IDE. We paste our example. This example, we first declare the variable that is assigned byte and temperature. We know that the range is between -128 to +127. We cannot have different value than that. For example, if here I put -545, we'll have an underlined red color. See? Or if I write +525 also is a problem, because the variable, so the container, allows number only with this range number. So the allocation of memory for this variable is limited, and it's good for that, so we are not overdoing. If, for example, we need to store age, we can actually have a byte, and we know from ChatGPT that a byte has a different range. It goes from 0 to 120 to 255, and I want to show you this now on our there we go. Let's see another data type. There we go. A byte is an 8-bit unsigned integer. So if we ask ChatGPT, write an example of 8-bit unsigned integer in C#. Okay, there we go. They make age. Age makes sense to have just a byte, because range between 0 and 255 is absolutely enough. You see, a byte type can hold values in the range 0 to 255. Okay, so in this case the byte is an unsigned integer, because it goes only from 0, not negative number, to 255, 8 bits. And we can have here an example, age. Okay, there we go. Let's copy this, we put it here, and now we have 2 examples. So now what we're gonna do is, here I want a signed byte, so a 8-bit signed byte, and I do for example minus 10 degrees. Okay, now you see is not giving the underlined red, because is within the range that we can have from minus 128 to plus 127. Now, just to prove a point, if you write 260, is underlined, see, because it's outside the range. Even if you write 220, is outside the range, because it's a signed value. So we can go to plus 23, for example, because it's within range. The same logic applies when we want to declare, in this case, an unsigned integer, and in this case age. The range that is acceptable is from 0 to 255. If by chance I put here 267, the machine will tell me there is an error. Okay, so let's put age 50, for example, is acceptable. Now if we run this one, and we already know the command to write a line, that is write line, and then we have a string, the age is, and then we add age. We concatenate the value that has been assigned to my byte variable age, that is 50. And then we can even change age and change the current allocation, current value allocated to the variable age to 200. Same logic for temperature. Here we can go, since sbyte, it means is an signed integer. Let me write it for clarity. We can declare a initialize 8-bit signed integer, and a good example is temperature. So let's run the current code and see what's the outcome. So there are some errors, and we want to fix these errors. So we want to declare initialize a variable. So temperature, code write the temperature is. Let's keep it simple. And let's keep it simple. Okay. So I will just remove the other example of variables. We want to clarify things. There we go. Let's see what's the error. So let's compile. And indeed is showing our variable. So the temperature is 23 and the age is 50. So it worked. Here I can use even negative numbers, which is absolutely fine because it's within range. Okay, so it worked, isn't it? So as you can see, ChatGPT can be used as an assistant to help out our coding, and we can ask plenty of questions, and it's an amazing assistant that all of us we should use.